let's talk about those results. And I'm going to go to you, Vitas. Are you surprised by this? Is this what you were expecting?
No, not surprised at all. Actually, I think.
Not surprised?
No, not surprised. Slow and unknown speed of arrival it goes in line with what François was just saying. So visibility and tracking the visibility up to the payee and giving up to the end user. I think we increased quite a lot between correspondent banking, but it needs to go beyond up to the corporate and then to the end user. So I'm not surprised that this is the main challenge. The rest goes with everything we try to improve today with the G20. So the data, poor quality, I think ISO is definitely a key subject, and friction, too many false positives. So I think the ISO 20022, like we many times said, is the glue and the prerequisite to solve all of this, but it needs to happen everywhere in cooperation across not only cross-border, but also the last mile, and be used up to the corporate in order to make sure we can solve this.
Yeah, and I think if we look at, and I mentioned it, I think a lot of these can be combined, actually. I think it could be summarized. But I want to know, and I said I was going to be tough on these guys, and I'm going to be. No bias, because you work at the same company for me. What's Bottomline doing? Right, these are issues we're being told. How are you going to solve it? You know, we're serious about assisting our customers cross-border payments, but give us actionable things that Bottomline's doing.
So where we help is clearly to, one, I would say, we run a survey as well, and we learned that 91% of the company that responded to the survey are basically saying that they are struggling to follow all the regulation mandate within the next 12 months, and they will not be on time. So time to market. I think we can speed up time to market because we bring a platform that can give you access to multiple rail, be it cross-border, but also domestic rail. Having one platform doing that, it's easier for the integration, so you save time, you can bring new solution to your client more quickly, new rail. We speak about instant payment that are coming everywhere. This is enabled, so you can use and access it without having to implement everything. Of course, the ISO 20022 is underlying the platform, so it's available natively in the platform. You have overlay services where if you centralize everything in one platform, you have your data, and this is one of the points, poor quality, loss of data. You can have access to centralized data, bringing you access to better visibility of your liquidity because it's centralized. And another aspect that we cover as well is the resilience aspect. I think this one is also part, and it's not mentioned here, but it's also part of the expectation from the regulator, having a resilience platform, and what do you do for operational resiliency? That's definitely also a place where we can help and speed up the process.
Yeah, access to multi-rails, absolutely. So Vitas gave that stat, 91% are worried about payments regulation in the next 12 months. That's pretty intimidating, but luckily we've got Annick here to look at that. So, you know, G20 roadmap, it's not just about compliance, it's about giving customers sort of faster, cheaper, more transparent services. But where do you see industry bodies like EBA playing a role in helping banks to bridge that gap between regulatory targets and ultimately customer expectations?
I'll gladly come to that immediately, Jenny. I just wanted to maybe just also stay with that Paul for a moment. Because I think it's interesting how far down the trapped liquidity in systems is on that one. I don't know with whom you guys have been having conversations on the ground, but there's definitely growing concern that we heard about this becoming an increasing problem as we move ahead, especially if we don't manage to get people to rally around this rather than that solution. You know, it's super nice, and we heard a lot about extremely interesting and forward-looking and innovative solutions out there. But if you have all of these different rails and all of these different channels, you usually also need a liquidity pot for each of them. And if you need to replenish those and manage those 24/7 and on weekends at a time where financial markets may still be closed for a foreseeable future, it gets quite tricky. And so one thing that on the EBA clearing side, and here I'm wearing my other hat, we're looking into is indeed also, aside from obviously also beefing up instant payments, shouldn't we also just extend the opening hours of our large value payment system, Euro 1? And obviously that's something that we would do in close coordination with what the Eurosystem is doing on that, because obviously it is highly dependent on the interaction with T2. But it's definitely something that should also come into the larger picture. And of course, the more other solutions we see proliferate in the media, in the market, the more there will be a risk that this will move higher up on your list. But let's come then back to the topic of what is the association doing in this area. And we obviously have one of the members of our group here also on the panel, so I'm sure Alex can back me up on that one. Based on the survey that we did, we really felt as a group that OCT Inst was maybe not the ideal solution, built in heaven, but the most practical thing that we have going right now for a quick way forward towards the G20 roadmap, because let's keep in mind 2027 is, by infrastructure terms, just around the corner. And so that is definitely something that we have now been trying to push together with these banks into the market, looking also into facilitating factors, what is needed. So the first thing we felt was needed was a call to action. And, the good news is that 10 institutions have already responded to that one and have actually rallied around EBA Clearing's pan-European RT1 platform to actually commit to using that within the next 2 years for establishing REACH for OCT Inst. And there's a comprehensive white paper also backing up that story, explaining also from the view of these banks why they want to lead the way into that direction, but obviously a lot of other institutions will have to follow, and we need to look as an industry into how to make it viable for everyone.
Okay, excellent. Well, thank you. I think we're going to look now at ISO 20022 synergy. Before we move on, actually, do you have anything to say about these polls, Alex or Francois, before we move on? We're short of time, but if everything's been covered, we can go to poll 2. It's just if there was something desperately that you wanted to share your wisdom on.
No, nothing really to add. I mean, I was torn between the top two. I think they tend to be the ones, they're all obviously pain points, the ones you have less control over, right? So, if, for data, for example, you can control how data flows through your systems. You can't control what comes in from third parties, etc. So, the top two would be my top two.
And the same from you, Francois?
Well, I was trying to refrain myself from commenting because I know you desperately want to get to ISO, but now that you invited me. So I think, I'm really very much aligned with the trapped liquidity in system point that Annick mentioned. Maybe a reason why it does not feature that high is maybe you would have turned the question in a different way, which would be funding the liquidity where it needs to be so that I can execute my payments, maybe would have featured higher, because we see that banks don't like to have their liquidity trapped everywhere. So they're really trying to work just in time, but it's getting really difficult. And I'm really pleased to hear initiatives such as extending operating hours of RTGS, etc. So when we looked at some of the insights we got from our market assessment analysis is that when a bank is already very sophisticated and modern in terms of infrastructure processes, such as ISTP rates, etc., you see that the liquidity and insufficient liquidity is becoming like an issue. I would say when you have bigger issue to solve, you don't see it, right? But when you are doing already well, you are real time, etc., then the liquidity issue is becoming like much more visible.